Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We are back. And we were just talking earlier about the different cultures of the masjids. And then Carisha brought up a very good subject, which is um, marriage and holidays within the revert American culture. So we have a difficult time as reverts, especially during around Eid, where you go and you might go to the Eid prayer. I mean, in my experience, and I love my sisters, I really do, but in my experience, I'm not as excited for Eids as I would like to be because I have no one to celebrate it with. You know, nobody in my family is Muslim except for me, and they don't understand what's going on. They're still 8 years later trying to figure out why we don't get Christmas gifts. You know what I'm saying? So, I could definitely relate with as regards to the holidays, but also with the marriage. Those that are from uh, born Muslims or those from other countries. When a woman wants to get married, she tells her brother or her father, and they go out and get them, and they're on top of it, trying to find the best person for the sister. But for American Muslims, we're, like I said, the only Muslims in our family. Our parents don't understand that process of what they would call an arranged marriage. And they still want you to fornicate before. So
exactly.
it can become very difficult. Have you guys experienced the same thing?
I would say I have, and mine has a few different tiers from it. I reverted while I lived in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in the vacation place. So yeah. My family would come visit me. I would send for them, they would come visit. But once I moved closer to them, it became in their face. Then my daughter started wearing hijab. And then it's like, okay, well, how do I explain that you all don't go to my church? How do I explain this? And I did allow my daughter, she went with them to church, but then it turned into, well, she should join the church, and then it should be this. And then she looked at me like, well, I went with them on Mother's Day to church, but it's Ramadan. They can't just wait till sunset and eat with me.
Right.
Like, I'm not asking them to celebrate Ramadan. I'm saying I come over your house and I eat with you after sunset. Like, and that's not an option. And I think the biggest thing, especially with a lot of our families, if our families are into the church, they look at us becoming Muslim as denouncing them or saying their way is wrong. When for me, I always say, if it wasn't for being in church as a child, I wouldn't have been a freshman in college and saying, wait, what's my path? What's my way? Knowing that I needed something, but realizing that getting to 4 this way didn't work, but getting there this way did.
Yes.
So I'm still going to 4. Either way it goes, 2 + 2 is 4. If you put them side by side or on top of each other, it's still the same thing.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to the same place. But I have to get there my way, just like they made their decision.
Right.
And then and then beyond that, it's like for me now, I understand, because one of the greatest things for me after pregnancy loss was having more children, because I think, oh, I'll have a lot of family come over for Ramadan and Eid, and we'll celebrate together, and I have a lot of family versus being alone and not having family.
MashaAllah.
That celebrate with you, because they don't realize that I can still eat Christmas dinner with you because it's a meal I'm eating.
Right.
I can come and eat a meal with you, but you look at it like you can't come and eat a meal with me.
Right. Right.
And that's one of the biggest things. And then, like you said, when you think about when we get married, we don't, who talks to us about a Wale and Wakil? Who talks to us about a dowry? Who makes sure that it's a good brother?
Right.
Who makes sure for our daughters? Because then sometimes in certain situations and certain locations, because I don't want to say masjids, I'll say centers.
Mm-hmm.
You get groups of people who may look at our daughters or even our sons as not as worth it because they're reverts. They're children of reverts, even though our children are born Muslims, but sometimes their worth gets lowered by their opinion sometimes. Not all people, but sometimes that does happen because if your son marries my daughter, do you question her Arabic? Do you question if she understands everything from fiqh? Because a lot of us don't have a fiqh when we convert, when we revert. We don't have a fiqh either sometimes. There are a lot of things that we don't get unless we search for it, where we come from a church background where we're not taught to search. Yeah. So it becomes like school.
With my mother, when I was growing up and for all her life, I remember her praying that I had a very good relationship with God. So when I came and was a Muslim and I talked to her and I was like, all your life you've been asking me to have a relationship with God. Now I have an ultimate relationship. There is nobody in between that. It's just me and him. And now you're mad? You can't pray for something and then get upset about how it came to you. You know, if anything, I am the most religious. Now, if I was still saying that I was a Christian, because there are Christians that wear hijab, or let's say I became a nun, would you still be upset?
Exactly.
You know, it was it just talk that you want me to be a religious person? That's just, it sounded good. Now that I am a religious person, you're upset. It just didn't, I never understood it, and it hurt me deeply. It still does, but you say alhamdulillah because I realized that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, do you think you can say you're Muslim and not be tested? And all you can say is alhamdulillah, and you keep it going.
And look at all the sisters we gained. I never had a sister, and I have millions now.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So at this, we want to thank you for joining us at All Things Naqab. It has been a pleasure to have these discussions, and we look forward to having more with you. At this time, we are going to do our closing positive thoughts. Nadia, do you have a positive thought to leave us on?
Yeah. Ignore and love and do what's best to be Allah. Because the only one that matters is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
And Carisha, you got a positive send-off for us?
Yes. Always remember that you are never alone. Allah is always with you. And even when you don't see it, you have an ummah around this whole world. So if you feel like you're alone, you're never alone.
MashaAllah. Well, on the closing, I have one. Our last positive note, and we shall see you on our next scheduled program. Unquestionably, there will be no fear concerning them, nor will they grieve. Those who believe and were fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For them are good tidings in the worldly life and in the hereafter. And that is Yunus chapter 10, 62 through 63. Surah 62 through 63. We want to thank you for joining us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamualaikum.
We'll see you later.
Assalamualaikum.
All things in the Cobb, where we cover
Everything.
Thank you.